Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
I'm Nicole Rabel, and I'm doing what I'm told.
Good job. Here on this glorious 4th of July. And so I figured, you might hear some background noise, but for some reason I feel like for a lot of people there's not too much to celebrate about this country. So I'm really not hearing a whole hell of a lot for past 8 o'clock.
Are you kidding, Jordan? That's the new thing, is the war on Independence Day.
It's not the war on Christmas anymore, even though we had it like...
If you say Happy 4th, it is a bastardization of our American rights.
We did hear your mother say that today.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. Like,
because somebody went out of their way to say Happy 4th of July, and they were like, Happy Independence Day.
Because they don't get given real problems to be mad about.
I know.
They're blinded by
Well, so blinded by the
by culture war,
wrapped up like a douche. All right, so let's get started, shall we? I figured this would be a good one to go with for 4th of July, just to remind us all about our great nation's history.
Oh God!
All right, ready? Harriet Elizabeth Beecher was born June 14th, 1811, in Litchfield, Connecticut, to her mother Roxana and her father Lyman. As will happen in our episodes here on Caleb Can't Read, Harriet's mother, Roxana, passed away when Harriet was only 5 years old, leaving behind 11 fucking children.
Well, that's why she died, right?
I would imagine
Jesus Christ.
So. Well, her open wound ain't fucking healing. Harriet's father, Lyman, on the other hand, was already a well-known name by the time of her birth. Lyman Beecher was a Calvinist preacher earning the meager sum of $400 a year, about $8,000 today, which wasn't good even back then. However, the trade-off was that Lyman was also paid in firewood. And I'm sure, hey, let's mitigate our circumstances here for a minute. Just fucking, I'm sure that sounds a bit strange when you first think about it. But when fire is your main source of light and heat, you're going to go through a lot.
I am still stuck on 11 kids, and now you're dropping this on me. Like, that woman was a worker factory. And her only benefit was just feeling a little bit toasty.
How much to bury her, doctor? About 2 bundles of hay.
God.
I mean,
what is a bundle of sticks?
We're not going to go into that. Frankly, chopping that much wood would be a tremendous pain in the ass when you think about it. Like, for heating for 11 children, no longer a wife as well.
What do the people who chop the firewood get?
I don't know. Fuck them, though. They're poor. Still, since simply preaching wasn't paying the bills, Lyman got to work on publishing his sermons on certain subjects. Things like drunkenness and dueling were seen as modern issues against morality, and Lyman's pamphlets would actually earn the family quite a bit of fame, enough so that these works got translated as they made their way throughout Europe as well.
If you run out of firewood, you could start burning those pamphlets.
You start burning your kids, too. Like, how many fucking kids? Jimmy, give me your arm. Yeah,
but then
I know,
who
man.
will run your fields? Who will chop your firewood?
That's why people had so many kids back then. I hate to say it. There weren't
because
vaccines.
Women were worker factories.
Yeah, quit saying it like it's a bad thing. You didn't have anything to do, says Jordan Peterson. Women have never once had a bad point in history. So just calm your fucking ovaries, please. Now, when Harriet turned 21 in 1832, she moved to Cincinnati to join her father, who called the city, quote, the London of the West. Cincinnati. I have a feeling the food also sucks in Cincinnati, so maybe he wasn't wrong. But there, Harriet was lucky enough to attend a school that was run by her older sister, Catherine. And after graduating, she started teaching there as well, while also attending the Lane Theological Seminary, where her father Lyman had recently become president. You see, Unitarianism was beginning to sweep the nation. You know what Unitarians are?
Unitards.
Damn, it kind of, that's a good one.
Also, I think it's funny that her father was a preacher named Lyman.
Why?
Because he lies, man.
dumb. You're going in timeout after this. So Unitarians, though, are basically, and it's funny because my coworker actually grew up Unitarian, and when I was like, oh, what was, like,
Were
you went
they
to...
normal?
Oh, dude, they're like the most chill fucking people.
Oh,
Their whole
good.
thing is basically like, yeah, dude, like, you know how there's that whole thing where, like, any college professor talking about fucking world religions always just says, like, yeah, you know, every religion just has the same basic rules. Be good to yourself and to others, and everything else is just commentary. That's literally what Unitarianism preaches as their own thing.
Aww,
So
I feel
they're
bad
just like,
now for saying what I said.
oh, no. They're dumbasses.
Oh, okay.
You see, no, Protestant is where it is. No, I'm kidding. But it's just, it's funny because I was like, so what did you do in church all day? And they were just like, honestly, we just kind of had a little sermon of like, y'all still being chill about it? All right, here's VeggieTales, you know? It was kind of neat. Well, it's basically someone, I guess I wrote it down as an explanation better than that. It's basically someone who rejects the idea of the Holy Trinity, seeing Jesus as more of a great teacher, but not any more holy than anyone else, because everybody is holy. God is in everything. You know, heresy. Well, Lyman Beecher...
Is it heresy? Is that how you say that? I always thought it was heresy.
Heresy?
Are you saying heresy or are you saying heresy? Or is it a completely different term?
We're going to move on.
Oh, fuck
I don't
you.
know.
Oh, no, I'm
At least I know how
I'm
to
more
say...
educated than my wife.
Well, I am, but I still don't know how to say...
I don't know how to say heresy. Heresy.
Well, Lyman Beecher was at the forefront of the war against Unitarianism, publishing pamphlets and giving speeches throughout the United States about it. Well, the board of directors at the Lane Theological Seminary were so impressed that they wanted him to be president. But Lyman declined. Why? Because the Lane Theological Seminary was Protestant. But when they mentioned that Lyman's...
Wait, I thought he was supposed to be as Unitarians.
No, he's Calvinist. But he was publishing a bunch of shit about how Unitarianism is stupid. And so then these Protestants were like, we're so impressed.
I must have like blacked out for like 2 seconds because I thought he was like pro-uni.
No, he said that they all sucked ass. And so basically they were just like, oh my God, you should join us. And he's like, great, what do you guys teach? And they're like, we're Protestant. And he's like, fuck no.
Well, there you go.
But when they mentioned that Lyman's annual salary would be bumped up from $800 to $20,000, which is a little over $1 million today.
How many piles of firewood is that equal to?
Lyman realized he was Protestant all along.
Oh, God.
It's at least a couple trees. At least.
At
So you got to understand. But also, I'm going to say, at Cincinnati, there's no way they had electricity at this point, right? Nah.
Dude,
It was
I
like
don't know.
Nah.
Anyway. I don't know. Do you want me? I don't have my phone. I can't look it up.
Google
I actually have
doesn't
to pay
touch
attention to
Cincinnati.
you.
No. So you got to understand, when you have a big job like that, you got to escalate things a little bit to show that you're serious about your job, right?
Earn that firewood, baby.
Mm-hmm. Well, back then, there was a huge push against Catholics. People in America saw the Pope as some controlling ruler from afar that looked to stick his finger into government and take over the world.
He is. He rules all the Catholics.
I mean, that's true. Oh, it's kind of funny, too, that, like, when you
Catholic
started getting...
first,
when you stopped,
American citizens
when you
second.
stopped going to Catholic church, you're like, you all of a sudden were just like, there's a buzzing in my ear. I don't know what that is. And I was like, oh my God, the hive mind is releasing you. But people back then, they basically treated Catholics with the same suspicion that we give Scientologists today. And not that they don't deserve it. So Lyman jumps on board. He makes a few anti-Catholic speeches that seem to drum up support. He says, we got to protect Massachusetts from the, quote, hostile designs of popery. On August 10th, 1834, he makes his speech at 3 different churches alone. The next day, people began smashing the windows of the Ursuline Convent in Somerville, Massachusetts. They set fire to tar barrels placed around the building, which set the building ablaze. But after the fire died down, and the rioters realized that the cops weren't going to do anything, they ransacked the place and burned it down again.
Oh my God. Well, fair. I mean,
they're just behind the bushes like, are they fucking...
If you were going to ransack a church, I guess you would pick a Catholic church. There's like... a lot of Catholicism treasures. Has the bossest shit. They out of all the different Christian gangs,
I don't know if
they have the most style.
The Great Dragon Smaug was meant to be Catholic in Tolkien's idea of things, but let me tell you, they do hoard the world's wealth.
Yes. Yeah.
And although a large crowd of people were responsible for this incident, the police managed to pin the crime on just 13 people. However, 12 of them were acquitted, with all the blame being placed on a 16-year-old boy who was sentenced to life imprisonment. I have no idea why
a kid.
They hated him so fucking much.
Well, you don't know. Do you know anything about the 16-year-old? Because what if he's just like...
I did look into it,
he was just very impressionable, but like didn't have a lot going
he's
for
like
him.
The fucking mastermind of this.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They're just like,
he's 16.
Tyler did it. He did get released early after the nuns at the convent wrote a letter to the mayor telling him it was kind of fucked up, though. So I will say that
hey, that's really fucked up that you're pinning it all on this kid.
Yeah, basically the people who were actually victimized were the ones that were just like, bro, you know he didn't fuck. They were really planning on putting him... That was
really nice of them, actually.
Nuns. But, it's
I guess that's the point, right? Of organized religion, at least Catholic school, was just like...
pertain to
being
it,
forgiving,
being a good person
is a virtue.
Yeah, and just I just they were planning on letting him die there.
I guess so, because it's old timey prison.
I mean, the rest of his life he didn't go on to become the fucking Rockefeller or anything like that. It's kind of fucked up.
This was before prison let you read books and work out on your downtime. I guess.
I suppose so. Now, when Harriet first moved to Cincinnati to start school at the Lane Theological Seminary, she could see some room for growth in the city, partly for the better, as Cincinnati was expanding thanks to the trade deals being made up and down the Ohio River. But she could also see that there were parts of the city that were being rebuilt from a riot that took place just a few years prior. You see, we were still in the slave days of America, and the Ohio River was an important border between the free state of Ohio and the slave states of Kentucky and Virginia.
No, that's not how you say that shit.
You got me distracted. What? What's up?
You're just really sweaty. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm going to set up a fan.
Virginia.
Sorry. It's a lot of effort to be a white man in America.
Virginia.
All right, well... In 1829, some Irish immigrants were afraid that former slaves would be too used to working for a smaller wage, so they ransacked a bunch of neighborhoods. But don't worry, Harriet would be able to see these things for herself, as the same shit would happen again in 1836 and again in 1841. So a recurring problem, I guess.
Of Irish immigrants?
Just ransacking shit because they're like, the blacks are gonna do us better. Yeah, I guess. Now, at the Lane Theological Seminary, they had a book club of sorts called the Semicolon Club. Here, students would delve into the classics while discussing their theological and philosophical themes. The usual nerd shit. But what was unusual about this club was that it was a mix between both boys and girls. Usually, schools kept their clubs segregated. I mean, you wouldn't want chicks to bleed.
Let girls think.
You wouldn't want chicks to bleed all over the chairs and talk about their periods and shit, right? But instead, this mix allowed for a more balanced discussion from different walks of life. Turns out it's beneficial. Who knew? Because of this, people like Harriet Beecher got to discuss literature with people like Elizabeth Blackwell, who would go on to become the first female physician in America. And Salmon Portland Chase, the future Chief Justice under Lincoln, who would go on to refuse to hire Walt Whitman because he thought Leaves of Grass was pornographic. Salmon Portland Chase.
Salmon Portland.
His name is Salmon Chase. I don't know. Hey. Salmon. After you have 11 kids, you start to run out of ideas.
That's true.
We can't call them all Jeremy.
This is Jeremy, Jason, Elizabeth, Braden, O'Caden, Salmon.
Well, from the discussions the kids had between different theological subjects, one was more contentious than all the others. One that seemed to be at the very core of America itself: slavery. This grew into a debate that would take over the entire school, whether you were part of the Semicolon Club or not. Eventually, the school decided to hold official debates between the students across 18 days in the month of February 1834. Now, Harriet didn't attend every debate, but she was there for the majority of it. And let me tell you, the debates soon grew outside the doors of the Lane Theological Seminary and became national news. Harriet's father, Lyman Beecher, was there to take part in the debates as well. And the Beecher family were staunch abolitionists, very against slavery. But that's not to say that Lyman thought black people should stay in America after they were freed, though. He thought the best thing to do was to put the slaves on a boat a second time, send them to some remote colony in West Africa.
That's what I was going to ask. Because you get people who, back then at least, it was like, if I remember my high school history correctly, Oregon was very much like, no, we don't want slaves. Mm-hmm. But it's not because
we don't agree with it. It's because we just don't black people here.
Pretty much, yeah.
Essentially. Well, that's the thing that, a lot of people will be like, oh, come on. People were okay with slavery back then. No, dude. Slavery was not cool for, a big majority of human history. People did not like slavery. It does not mean that they were okay with other people. Everybody knew that
it was wrong.
Yeah. We were fighting a war about it. But it was also just we don't want them near us either. Same thing with civil rights. A lot of people were just like, yes, they should be allowed to vote. I don't want them here in my city, though,
Yeah.
As word of the Lane debates grew, more speakers began showing up for each side. And of course, on the pro-slavery side were a bunch of privileged white kids that were the children of slave owners. However, the pro-abolitionist side had their share of kids from slave-owning families as well. So for every kid that said, oh, they're fine, they get fed and have a roof over their heads, that's all they need, there were kids that could actually speak to the abuses that were happening, such as, quote, because they did have stenographers for this shit, the master took him into the barn, stripped him entirely naked, tied him up by his hands so high that he could not reach the floor, tied his feet together and put a small rail between his legs so that he could not avoid the blows, and commenced whipping him. He told me that he gave him 500 lashes. And on both sides, no one could say that they didn't know of a story where a slave got tortured to death. But of all the speeches, the most important came from a man named James Bradley. James was a former slave, and the speech he gave that day was actually the first instance of a black person addressing a white crowd in America. Quote, how strange it is that anybody should believe any human being could be a slave and yet be contented. I do not believe there ever was a slave who did not long for liberty. I know very well that slave owners take a great deal of pains to make the people in the free states believe that the slaves are happy. But I know, likewise, that I was never acquainted with a slave, however well he was treated, who did not long to be free. There is one thing about this that people in the free states do not understand. When they ask slaves whether they wish for their liberty, they answer no. And very likely they will go so far as to say they would not leave their masters for the world. But at the same time, they desire liberty more than anything else and have perhaps all along been laying plans to get free.
Because you're answering under duress.
Duh.
It's what they don't seem to get.
At the end of the Lane debates, the majority of the crowd agreed that not only was slavery wrong, but displacing freed slaves to Africa would actually be bad too. And wouldn't you know it, the pro-slavery guys were pissed. Turns out the school's trustees were pro-slavery as well. So when students asked if they could extend the debates, the school said no. And when the students asked if they could talk about the matter more privately, the school still said no. And when
Sounds like a free speech issue.
When they asked if the school could be open to students of all colors, the school said, fuck no. This led to all the pro-abolitionist students, about 40 in total, which made up most of the school, quitting the Lane Theological Seminary to move to a better college. They were designated the Lane Rebels.
See, it's funny that the administration for the Lane School was just like, no, we don't want to open it to people of color. But like at this point in time, how many people of color would have been able to go call that college realistically?
I mean, realistically, it's hard to say.
I
know that there were
it sounded like the majority of them were still slaves.
Well, that's the thing, is that they were saying that like Cincinnati was, I think I said that it was a free city, but basically was on the edge across the river from places that had slaves. If slaves ran across the fucking river, I'm sure that some of them did have good jobs. There was a system in place
for assholes to take them back.
Well, that is true as well, yeah. Now, for a time, the Lane Rebels decided you know what, that's true, though. They could have also just been like, well, we handle each administration privately, and then just like, let one or two guys in, like black guys or something, and then just be like, no to the rest. I'm just
saying, I don't know. They could have been more diplomatically. They could have been more surfacely diplomatic while still just being very realistically being a piece of shit.
Yeah, every corporation in America. Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, it's Pride Month. We here at McDonald's support your right to express love however you want it. Eat a Big Mac.
Yeah. And then as soon as July hits, like, whoop, all their Twitter handles just drop the rainbow.
Drop the rainbow.
Now, for a time...
Red, white, and blue.
For a time, the Lane Rebels decided they would open their own school in a town called Cumminsville.
Oh, yeah.
And as short a while as this school was open, the Rebels would have evening classes to teach subjects to the local black population.
Yeah, they had evening classes for the Cummins School.
Stop.
Okay.
But as their class size grew, the Rebels decided to migrate to the newly opened Oberlin College. Their condition? Open the school to people of all races. The board was not super down with the idea, and their decision came by a split vote. But in the end, well, they were new. They needed students. Yet the newspapers were documenting all of this, from the Rebels leaving the Lane Seminary to their immigration at Oberlin. The whole thing was a major sensation in America, and this would actually be documented as the first act of student revolt in America. They should have done that way, way, way before. Now, Calvin Ellis Stowe was born April 6th, 1802 in South Natick, Massachusetts. Calvin's father died when he was young, making him the hopeful breadwinner for his family. He apprenticed a papermaker when he was 12, eventually earning enough at the paper mill that he could afford a single year of college at the Bradford Academy at age 16.
That's such a waste. Do you know how much firewood that you could get for that? He should have gone to a junior college.
Honestly, a 16-year-old boy, as a mother, I would have been like, do you know how much fucking firewood you're worth? But instead,
how many winters we could survive?
But instead of this being his only education, Calvin's teachers saw how much of a future he actually had and paid his way to college in Maine for the next 2 years.
Damn, that good, huh?
Yeah, right? Future President Franklin Pierce once said that sitting next to Calvin in college was the only reason he was able to graduate.
That's so funny because I feel like I've heard this thing before where a lot of presidents weren't the brightest students.
No way. No fucking way, Nicole. Wow. I know of a recent president. Might be our current one, too, where his teacher said that he was the dumbest fucking student he ever had. So.
I meant, like, presidents besides that guy.
Well, after this, Calvin continued his academic studies at the Lane Theological Seminary in Cincinnati, where he would meet our very own Eliza Taylor. Married her in 1832, but unfortunately she would pass a mere 2 years later. However, someone who would be there in his time of need was Eliza's friend, Harriet Beecher. They would marry just 2 years later on January 6, 1836, when Harriet was 24 and Calvin was 33. I know.
Normal for back then, but still.
I mean, I guess they're still both in
realistically,
college, I guess.
No.
That's like teacher age, though. He can't just be old guy in class, you know?
No, if it's... Okay, he was 33 and she's 24?
Yes.
Dude, if it's over 7 years,
I mean, it gets more acceptable as time goes on, but that's the
thing.
She's a young
but like
thing.
when you're under the age of 25.
Yeah. But I guess they did know each other beforehand. Like, you know, he was his wives. No.
Okay.
Either way, this is, of course, how the whole world would forever
18.
know Harriet as Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Queen above 18.
Shut up. It was their first year of marriage that the Stowes would have their first children, twins, born September 29th, 1836. The first was also named Harriet Beecher Stowe, whom they called Hattie, which I feel they could have just named her
Called her
that.
Junior.
Well, they could have just named her that to lessen the confusion.
Like, I don't know. Hattie doesn't seem like a formal name.
I don't know.
Side note, is this the longest it's ever taken you to get to the writer and the subject of today's podcast?
No, she started from the very beginning.
Okay.
This has all been her story. So no, but I feel like that was probably Lord Byron, who we had to go through like 4 pages about. And then technically I was starting Mary Shelley, and then I found out that her mom was so interesting that I was like, I'll just give her own episodes.
Oh, that's true. That's true. You had to give someone a whole episode.
Yeah. So
someone's technically
it's like
episode.
15, 16 pages. Either way. So their first kid of those twins named Hattie, but the other was named Eliza Tyler Stowe after Calvin's first wife, which is kind of just as strange.
I would be pissy, but
a little, you know. But like,
what were her rights realistically?
Fair. Anyway, as were the times, the Stowes would have 7 children in total. Henry in 1857, Frederick in 1840, Georgiana in 1843, Samuel in 1848, who unfortunately became the token dead kid when he died of cholera 18 months later, and Charles in 1850. Well, it was also in this first year of marriage that the 1836 Cincinnati riots took place. Same thing as the last one, people just hating how many black people there were. Well, the Stowe family, as well as the Beechers, became instrumental in people's protection during that time. And it's hard to say when they became a part of this loose organization, because it was illegal, so records are few at best. But it was probably around this time that their families decided to join the Underground Railroad.
Cool.
There's no trains.
I know. I remember my lessons.
Well, now as a little kid, that confused the shit out of me.
Oh, really?
Well, is railroading the thing that happened to Tommy's mom? No. Yeah.
Our teachers always made
our teacher was
sure
quick
to tell
be
us,
like there
not
was no train.
Literally a railroad.
I know, and then we were always just like, then why did they call it that? And she's just like, I don't know. Look.
It's a metaphor, fool.
Oh. Okay, now I get it. Well, by 1850, Harriet and her family were living in a house in Brunswick, Maine, while Calvin taught at Baldwin College. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow actually lived in this house some years before them. And although Congress had just recently passed the Fugitive Slave Act, which forbade anyone from housing or assisting runaway slaves, the Stowe family...
Big government is too much.
Our government would never do that. What a lie. The Stowe family still assisted them to safety in Canada anyway. One slave, named John Andrew Jackson, feels like a dig, would even write about his experiences while hiding at the Stowe estate in a book he released in 1862 called The Experience of a Slave in South Carolina. Quote, "Her name was Mrs. Beecher Stowe. She took me in and fed me, and gave me some clothes and $5. She also inspected my back, which is covered with scars, which I shall carry with me to the grave. She listened with great interest to my story, and sympathized with me when I told her how long I had been parted from my wife Louisa and my daughter Jenny, and perhaps forever." Which, damn, give her a fucking alias at least. Her name
He's
was Harriet Stowe.
speaking his truth.
Yeah. When Harriet and Calvin's 18-month-old son, Samuel Charles Stowe, passed away from cholera in 1849, Harriet was broken in ways few can understand. But rather than focus on her own grief, she turned an empathetic ear towards those who had it worse. Quote, "Having experienced losing someone so close to me, I can sympathize with all the poor, powerless slaves at the unjust auctions." While attending service at Brunswick's First Parish Church, Harriet claimed to have received a vision of a dying slave being whipped by two others that were being commanded to do so by their brutal master. And yes, that might be crazy, but apparently it was quite normal to just, quote-unquote, receive visions in the 1800s. I feel like it was a mix of cold and hunger.
Not enough firewood.
Not enough firewood.
Husband doesn't make that much.
I was going to make a joke about the dead baby maybe only giving you a couple twigs, but never mind. Her husband, Calvin, for instance, still spoke with his dead wife, Eliza, which I'm sure Harriet loved. Yeah. No, she doesn't do that thing with her tongue that I liked you doing. Yeah, no, she doesn't. She doesn't do that. She doesn't do that at all. Yeah, weird. But it was this vision, she says, that inspired her to write a book. Now, Harriet had actually published short stories and essays here and there before, starting all the way back in 1839 with a temperance story called The Drunkard Reclaimed. But this would be different.
Sounds like an action movie.
The Drunkard Reclaimed. I bet that would be sick as fuck. But they can't make it a temperance movie.
With Jackie Chan.
He already did
I don't want no trouble.
I don't want no trouble. I guess that's a Chinese accent, isn't it? I should probably cut that.
Sorry.
You can do that when you're Asian, I guess. It's funny because Asians are some of the most racist people.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like the most Asian thing
with love,
to
though,
not
with
like.
Love, with love.
No, not really.
Wow.
Well,
all right.
Asian. No, that's not where I was going with. But like, it's like the most Asian thing to be against other Asians.
Yeah. I feel like we've brought this up on the channel before. I don't know, but we're not going to go on a look. This episode is very much about racism. We don't need to go into our own problems. All right. Either way, this novel would be different.
I don't have a problem. You have a problem.
This would be about the immorality of slavery itself. On June 5th, 1851, an abolitionist paper called The National Era would publish the first installment of the 40-year-old Harriet story, and it would, of course, be titled Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Wow!
There's no way anyone saw that one coming.
The subject of today's podcast.
Quote, and this is going to be a long quote, but...
Are you going to read the whole book?
Yep. Late in the afternoon... Sorry, chapter 1.
Oh my God.
Late in the afternoon of a chilly day in February, two gentlemen were sitting alone over their wine in a well-furnished dining parlor in Kentucky. There were no servants present, and the gentlemen, with chairs closely approaching, seemed to be discussing some subjects with great earnestness. For convenience sake, we have said, hitherto, two gentlemen. One of the parties, however, when critically examined, did not seem, strictly speaking, to come under the species. He was a short, thick-set man with coarse, commonplace features, and that swaggering air of pretension which marks a low man who is trying to elbow his way upward in the world. He was much overdressed, in a gaudy vest of many colors, a blue neckerchief, bedrobed gaily with yellow spots, and arranged with a flaunting tie, quite in keeping with the general air of the man. His hands, large and coarse, were plentifully bedecked with rings, and he wore a heavy gold watch chain with a bundle of seals of pretentious size and a great variety of colors attached to it, which, in the ardor of conversation, he was in the habit of flourishing and jingling with evident satisfaction. Mr. Haley is visiting Mr. Shelby, a local slave owner whose plantation has been a little on the rocks lately. And Mr. Shelby will need to sell some slaves to keep afloat. But Mr. Shelby also wants to make sure he's doing right by Mr. Haley.
Is this still a quote?
No.
Okay.
And that was a little break in that to show. End quote. So he offers him one of his best, the hardworking, honorable, Christian man, colloquially known as Uncle Tom. But to Mr. Haley, one will simply not do. Now, nearby is a slave named Eliza, and now that I'm realizing it, was his first wife's name Eliza?
Yeah.
Well, are you sure about that?
Because the daughters, the twins, Hattie and Eliza, named after his dead wife, and the slave named Eliza.
Yeah, I never realized that before. Yeah. That's a little fucked up. All right. So
yeah. You know, I'm only familiar with the Siam version of this story.
Siam version?
Yeah.
Burma?
I'm making a reference to The King and I.
Is that really what it's based on? I have no idea. I never
It's not based. The King and I isn't based
That's
on...
Yul Brynner, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's not based on to Uncle Tom's Cabin, but the woman teaching the people in the palace teaches them about Uncle Tom's Cabin because they have slaves there.
Sure.
So she teaches them about the book, and the slaves get so excited that they decide to put on their own production of Uncle Tom's Cabin.
That's weird.
It was my favorite part of the movie.
I bet it was, you fucking racist Asian. No, so it's funny though, because the whole time you're talking, all that I'm thinking of is Yul Brynner as a killer robot in Westworld when he's all just like, bring him in, partner. I fucking love that movie. Anyway. Did you know that there was a sequel to Westworld called Future World?
Yeah. You've told me about it.
Yeah, it's not good, man.
Because I remember asking you, man, there's a sequel? Should we? And you literally went, don't.
It was so disappointing. Because Westworld with Yul Brynner is a really good movie.
Yes.
And that first season of the TV show, very good show.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. Oh, man, Westworld's so cool.
For the first movie and season.
There's literally like
when it
10 hours.
Is
there's
when
like 10 hours of good content in the Westworld universe, you know. Great shit. Anyway.
Win some, lose some. Anyways, Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Now nearby is a slave named Eliza, who's worried that Mr. Shelby will sweeten the deal with her son, Harry. You see, Eliza is very protective of Harry, as she and her husband George have already lost 2 children. And Harry is their last. So when Eliza sees Mr. Shelby and Mr. Haley talking, she goes to Mrs. Shelby with her worries. But Mrs. Shelby says, oh, don't worry. We would never sell Harry. Though meanwhile, Mr. Shelby is already drawing up the contract to sell both Uncle Tom and Harry. Later that day, Eliza's husband George secretly meets up with her, telling her that she and Harry need to come with him to flee towards Canada, but Eliza says, that's too dangerous. Begs him to just trust in God, that he's doing everything he can to keep their family safe. But George says their time is short, as they plan to marry him off to another woman on another plantation to start making more slaves. And Eliza says, they can't do that, we're already married.
Worker factory.
Yes, but of course, you know goddamn well that they do not care. So with a heavy heart, George announces that he's running away to Canada without her or Harry. His plan? To find work where hopefully he'll just make enough money to buy both his wife and son their freedom. Meanwhile, in Uncle Tom's Cabin, he's having a good old time with the Shelby son, Master George. They're eating pancakes, they're singing hymns. And by the way, Uncle Tom is not some old grandpa like you're probably thinking. He's actually kind of young, perhaps a middle-aged, muscular dude. What?
Well, that makes it, I don't know. Well.
What?
Keep going.
Okay, I just, you know what, maybe you don't pull on that thread.
I don't want to pull on that thread.
I want you to pull on that thread. What's going on? I can cut it.
I don't know. Like, does it make it weirder? I just think it's always weird. I guess it's just the now times, but like I always think it's weird when adults are hanging out with kids.
It is the master's kid, though.
That's true. He's doing it under duress.
Yeah, he's gonna barge in and be like,
"Yeah, you're right."
Roblox. Yeah, I would love nothing better.
But young sir, I'm going to get whipped if I don't finish my chores. Now, Roblox. Get good, noob.
You got any games on your phone? Yeah. Yeah. No, just don't go to the App Store. Oh, no. I always wanted Angry Birds 4 on there. Thank you.
God, that's like when they put those fucking tablets in Red Robin so you can pay for yourself, but then there's also like games on there.
That's right. I think we were with your little cousin Dean went like one time, and he's
just like, look at this.
Yeah, and he's just clicking yes on all this shit, and it's just like, the fuck is this $20 charge for?
That's how they get you.
No, dude, that's predatory.
It is.
That's fucking terrible.
It is.
Anyway, but either way, Mr. Shelby comes knocking on Uncle Tom's door with news that both he and Harry have been sold, much against the promises of Mrs. Shelby. Mrs. Shelby, of course, is distraught at the news because, you see, she's one of the good ones. She offers to sell her watch to save Harry at least, but alas, the paperwork has already been signed. Overhearing this, Eliza sneaks away to Uncle Tom's cabin with Harry that very night, explaining her situation and the conversation she had with George, and runs into the dark. Mr. Haley, the man who bought Harry and Uncle Tom, finds out about their escape the next day and goes to a slave catcher for help. The slave catcher agrees to take the job, saying he'll return Harry so long as he can keep Eliza when he finds them.
Ew.
Mr. Haley agrees. Several towns later, the slave catcher and his crew manage to catch up to Eliza. But when she spots them, she runs out towards the frozen Ohio River. Thinking she's cornered, the slave catchers approach Eliza, who manages to hold Harry tight as she leaps onto an ice floe while the river slowly drifts. In desperation, Eliza and Harry dangerously run across the ice toward freedom on the other side. This right here is one of the most memorable scenes in Uncle Tom's Cabin.
It was a really memorable scene in the Siamese version.
Are you fucking kidding me? They had that too?
Yes! It was like so...
I know we have it on VHS.
Asian,
Maybe we should watch it.
I was going to make you pull it up on YouTube. Because it is a trip. It's just
no, we're going to watch it in its most authentic
movie
version.
Stage effects.
Disc.
Oh, God.
They have stage effects.
They do. Because it's... And it's because it's funny. Because it's their... The way they present it is they're trying to, like... I don't know... do this Siamese workers imagination, like their perspective of how they're interpreting like running across a frozen river.
It's so funny that you've actually got like a bit of knowledge about this from like a movie within a movie of honestly not even a
play within a movie, and then it got explained when we
play
learned
within
more
a musical,
in like
the things I hate the most. Like, God damn. Well, back at the Shelby farm, Mr. Haley comes to collect his other prize, Uncle Tom. Uncle Tom's wife feeds her husband a final meal while Tom talks about believing in God's plan, much like Eliza did to her husband George. Unfortunately, Uncle Tom will never see his wife again. Tom is loaded onto a riverboat along with Mr. Haley and a crowd of other people just making their way down the river. Uncle Tom manages to convince Mr. Haley that the chains he's in aren't needed. He tells him, look, all I want to do is hang out in the hayloft, read my Bible. And Mr. Haley doesn't see much harm in it, so he agrees. Well, during their long journey down the river, Uncle Tom befriends a little white girl named Ava St. Clair. They have a friendly little conversation, and at the end, Ava's like, I like you, I'm gonna buy you. And Tom's like, well, that's cute, I guess. Either way, Ava ends up doing some dipshit kid thing during their journey, and she falls into the fucking river. And while everyone else just stands around all shocked, Uncle Tom leaps in and manages to bring her to safety. Ever thankful, Ava's father, Augustine St. Clair, decides to buy Uncle Tom from Mr. Haley right then and there. Well, arriving at the St. Clair farm, it isn't long before Tom's greeted by Marie St. Clair, the matriarch of the plantation and local crazy bitch. She says that all slaves are selfish, just leeching off their masters for food and shelter, all the while being ironically attended to by an old black woman named Mammy, who has to follow her. I saw your face. This is where it comes from. Just hang on.
Man, okay.
who has to follow her around and be ready for any given orders. And yes, this is one of the oldest depictions of a mammy character. We'll get into that later. The years go by on the St. Clair plantation, with Uncle Tom surrounded by a new audience for all his biblical teachings. We also get to hear a lot of backstories from slaves, which honestly do not seem like Harriet Beecher Stowe made them up. Like, there's some horrible shit in here that kind of break off from that 19th century style of writing when people talk about their experiences being tortured. Well, during his tenure on the farm, Uncle Tom sees a new young slave girl about Ava's age named Topsy. And Topsy and Ava, I see your face again, man. Look, the King of Siam cannot know all this shit, I swear to God. And Topsy and Ava become fast friends, paying no mind whatsoever to the social cues of the time. As if to say, you see, racism is taught, not learned. Which really upset a lot of people after the book's release. Anyway, one day, as Uncle Tom sings a hymn about angels to Ava, she says, "I seen angels. They live up there, and I'll be joining them soon." And Uncle Tom's just like, all right. You got something on your mind?
I don't know about you, but whenever a kid says something weird to me or strange, all I can do is say, all right.
Yeah, I know. You know, it's like all those times that, like, look, I love those, like, ghost compilation videos. But did you see that? Yeah, no, but it's
Number
just...
5.
Number
twerking
5.
Chicken.
Yeah, no. I love those videos. I don't believe in any of them, but a lot of the times it's just a kid saying some shit, and I'm just like, oh, you mean playing pretend?
Like beef.
Yeah. But did you hear that? What does he mean by I smell like beef?
Beef.
It's like... But yeah, no, it's just like, I see Grampy up there. And it's like, oh my God, he sees Grampy. And it's like, children play fucking pretend, dude.
They do.
What is, like, I remember doing that shit.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything.
We were trying to teach my kid, my youngest cousin, Dean.
Same one that was touching the fucking screen at a nasty ass Red Robin's. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we were trying to teach him, Red Rum. Dean's not here.
Yeah,
Mrs. Torrance.
Yeah.
And at first it seemed like it didn't take, but then all of a sudden, one day he just turned to us with like the finger and all and funny voice. Red Rum.
Yeah.
Red Rum.
He's never seen the fucking
Dean's
movie
not
even
here,
now. He's like
Mrs.
15 now. He's never
Torrance.
seen that movie.
Oh, God.
But he still remembers
Don't
the...
remind me how much time has passed. Fuck.
It's just funny because you taught him some weird shit. He'd just be like,
did.
he put your sister in like some plastic bag or
No,
something.
it was a blanket.
Oh, okay. And then he was just like running away, clapping his hands. We're like, what are you doing, teen? I'm going to burn the bodies. And it's like that. Nicole taught him that for sure. Anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Ava does end up slowly dying from some illness.
Tuberculosis.
Fucking probably. Consumption.
Would she get tuberculosis? She's
Why
not
not?
the one working.
Well.
Oops.
Well, Ava does end up slowly dying from some illness. That fucking consumption. Tuberculosis, probably. And as her family gathers around her... Nope. We're not running with that. She has just one dying wish for her papa. Free the slaves. Well, of course, the farm ain't gonna run itself. And although Ava managed to speak her mind in previous chapters about abolition coinciding with Christianity to her father, he just can't bring himself to let his slaves go.
He likes money.
Well, he ain't
free labor.
He ain't no man of God. But Uncle Tom...
He's a poo-poo butt face.
Free labor, Nicole. They're earning an education.
Oh, right. They're getting paid in firewood.
Remember, Nicole... Remember, they didn't have it that bad. We saved them from their fucking horrible lives and families.
Lions.
And maybe a lion.
A giraffe.
Giraffes are scary. Yeah.
Have you seen a giraffe fight?
Oh, they're so funny. It just reminds me of me and Caleb in the restroom together, just fucking fighting. Woo! But Uncle Tom tells Mr. St. Clair that when he's weak, he'll always be there to pray for him. Mr. St. Clair, as he wrestles his demons at a local bar, thinks on the ways of Christ and all he's done. And he realizes little Ava was right. Suddenly, Mr. St. Clair gets stabbed during a bar fight. In his last moments, Augustine St. Clair sees heaven.
They didn't have that part in The King and I.
No, this book, I do like this book, but it is about as heavy-handed as those Christian movies that are coming out with Zachary Levi.
Yeah,
it's pretty fucking heavy-handed. Now, being a widower, Marie St. Clair finds running a plantation on her lonesome a little too much to bear. So she decides to sell the slaves. At auction, Uncle Tom is sold to a vicious man by the name of Simon Legree, who, along with Tom, buys a 15-year-old girl named Emmeline. Yeah.
More like Simon Le Disagreeable.
More like Simon Disagree, am I right, fellas? I'm not a pedophile. The Legree farm is about as bad as they come. Legree has bought Emmeline to replace, of course, his old sex slave named Cassie, who he tosses into the cotton fields with zero remorse. Legree also has certain slaves that he treats better than others to work as overseers, so they can beat whoever falls out of line and get rewarded, a la Django Unchained, yes. So when Uncle Tom is seen helping Cassie fill her bag, the overseers have them both brought before Mr. Legree with the intention to have Uncle Tom whip Cassie as punishment. But Tom refuses, so Simon Legree's overseers take Uncle Tom outside and nearly beat him to death instead. All the while, Uncle Tom's faith falters, but when he has a vision of Jesus Christ and little Ava St. Clair, he knows he must continue spreading the good word. Well, one night, Cassie, remembering the years of sexual abuse she faced under Mr. Legree, manages to help Emmeline evade the same fate. Just as Eliza did before her own escape with Henry, Cassie comes to Uncle Tom's cabin and tells him their plan of escape. Come the next day, of course, Mr. Legree sees that both Cassie and Emily have fled the plantation, and he believes that Uncle Tom knows where they've gone. Uncle Tom is beaten all day and all night, and when Legree gets tired, he brings in 2 overseers to take over, kind of like the vision Harriet Beecher Stowe had. You understand that?
That's what I said earlier. Yeah.
But even while he's being beaten to death, Tom manages to reach out to the men and turn them towards God. Yet with Mr. Legree watching over them, they continue to beat him. Just like in that in that vision that Harriet had.
That little dream that she's
inspired
having.
to write this novel, you see.
God.
You know, it's kind of like that vision. Now, if you'll remember.
Mary Shelley had Frankenstein.
What does that have to do with anything?
I don't know. Just 2 female authors having dreams and then writing about it.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Well, good callback, I guess. Women. Just dreamers. Now, if you'll remember, back at the Shelby farm at the very beginning, there's the Shelby boy by the name of Master George. Well, he's all grown up, and he's tracked down Uncle Tom over the years to reclaim his favorite slave. Unfortunately, he arrives at the Legree farm in just his final moments of life. Uncle Tom sees Master George and dies with a smile.
Even the good white people still view black people as property.
Yeah, I didn't really like it, but it's spelled in the book every time. It's not Master George. It's M-A-S''R. It's Master George the entire way through. Anyway, the novel concludes with Master George's sermon, quote, "Think of your freedom. Every time you see Uncle Tom's cabin," in all caps, by the way. Every time you see Uncle Tom's cabin, and let it be a memorial to put you all in mind to follow in his steps and be honest and faithful and Christian as he was. In the afterword, Harriet Beecher Stowe reflects on the truthfulness of her story. She explains that while the story as a whole may be a fictional one, some of the narratives within are actually based on fact. For instance, that moment when Eliza runs across the ice floes of the Ohio River to freedom actually happened. Back in 1838, a woman named Eliza, okay, so she wasn't digging at her, thank God, ran away from slave catchers with a baby in her arms, jumping from ice floe to ice floe with nothing but a fence post for support for about a mile, while the slave catchers just fucking watched in awe. It's almost like they should have had a fucking realization at some point. Like, now, the general speed of the Ohio River is only about half a mile an hour, but still, you fall into freezing water, you can die. The baby would have guaranteed, at least. And these weren't like iceberg-sized flows, by the way. They were apparently no bigger than a surfboard at best. People watched as Eliza jumped all the way to safety on the other side, where, of course, there was already a slave catcher waiting. But he was so amazed by what he saw that he just pointed in the direction of safety and he let her go. This incident was immortalized in Harriet's book, where she felt it was a disservice to name the character anything else but Eliza.
I get her intentions, but
I know. Like, I bet the first draft, she's just like, Calvin, check this out. And he just goes,
about, like, her creation being used.
As like, the actual Eliza?
No, like, just how do you think Harriet Beecher Stowe would react to, like, what it's become with, like, the whole, you know, the term Uncle Tom and, you know, the whole mammy thing.
We'll get into that for sure. We'll get into that. This is a chronological story.
In the
you'll see
next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
No. This is she's got quite a life ahead of her. That she wrote this shit at 40. So give me a minute. Now, as I mentioned before, you can kind of tell which of these stories Harriet made up. At least I think. Like when Cassie and Emmeline run off the Legree plantation into the woods, they come across an old abandoned house to hide in. And when the slave catchers come around, Cassie and Emmeline start making wailing sounds like ghosts. And, they get so scared that they just run off, you know.
I was going to say, George, like, grown up and looking for his favorite slave, Uncle Tom, just to buy him back, sounded kind of far-fetched.
I mean, I could see it happening, I guess, you know? Like, oh, my dog's really alive, you know? Well, but here's the thing. That scene in the fucking woods with the fucking abandoned house and shit, that's a very stark contrast from when a slave talks about how they were used to breed more slaves. And when she tried to keep one, the plantation worked her so hard that she couldn't produce milk, so the baby died of starvation. That story, I believe. Yeah. I don't believe the fucking ghost in the forest.
You don't believe racists are that stupid?
I mean, I don't think that they were just like... I don't think that they were out in some cabin just like, the slaves you're looking for are gone, GI. Like... Matter of fact, the biggest criticism Uncle Tom's Cabin had from both the North and South was that it was written like a romance novel, which it is. It's not a bad book by any means, but it's certainly not groundbreaking in anything besides the subject matter. Now, as far as themes for the story go, you must remember that what Harriet was trying to get across to her audience was some good old-fashioned Christian morals. So the theme of this novel are very surface level. You've got temperance, feminism, and of course, the evils of slavery. All of which are easy to spot without even fucking looking for it. So anyway, Uncle Tom's Cabin was published, in weekly installments between June 5th, 1851 to April 1st, 1852. Almost a year's worth of chapters. And while initially this story was given the subtitle, Uncle Tom's Cabin, The Man That Was a Thing, it was soon changed to Uncle Tom's Cabin, Life Among the Lowly. Across the seas, however, the story was called Uncle Tom's Cabin, The History of a Christian Slave. Now, initially, Harriet Beecher Stowe was paid just $400 by the National Era for publishing rights, whereas the rights for the book went to John P. Jewett. I don't like saying his name, who released the book on March 20th, 1852. This was actually 12 days before the last chapter would be serialized in the National Era. Meaning,
weird.
No. If you wanted to see how it ended before your friends could spoil it for you, you could always just get the book. I think that's really good.
That's what you meant.
Yeah. So it's
nice.
like that
all
fucking
right.
yeah. That's smart, dude. That's good. And trust me, everyone was reading this. While the first edition was initially printed to just 5,000 copies, they sold an astounding 300,000 by the end of the year. It became the second best-selling book of the entire 19th century behind the fucking Bible. Oh. That's including fucking, you've got Kipling, Dickens, all of those guys.
Chuck Tingle.
Boom. Chuck Tingle. No, don't get me wrong. This wasn't the first pro-abolitionist work of fiction to have been published by any means. Not by a fucking long shot. But it was the first time where their response was so massive. The idea behind the book was to educate Northerners about what was happening in the South, with the hope that Southerners would be a bit more empathetic to slaves. All I can say is that as much as the pro-abolitionist movement was gaining steam amongst Americans, Uncle Tom's Cabin made slavery the #1 issue in the country. People started naming their fucking babies Ava after Ava St. Clair. That seems like a curse to me. Like, oh, let me name you after the dead one. Plays based on Uncle Tom's Cabin hit the stage, one of which was penned by Harriet herself in 1851.
Oh.
You had Topsy Tobacco, Uncle Tom dinner plates, fucking trading cards. Do you remember when Tarantino had to stop selling those Django Unchained action figures because everyone said you were technically buying slaves? You remember that shit? Yeah. And
yeah.
I remember when they first came out too, and I told your sister, I was like, she was like, oh, maybe I'll get one or something. I was like, listen, get his wife because no one is going to buy that one first, and they're going to discontinue this shit, and everyone will need her to fucking complete their set.
Oh, yeah.
And she never got any of them. And then, like, I remember, like, a few months after they had discontinued them, I was at, we were visiting your cousins down in L.A., we go to Frank and Sons or whatever, and that was a cool-ass place. I go there, and I look at one of the dolls. It's like $200 for the wife, and I was like, yeah. Yep. Meanwhile, in the South, Uncle Tom's Cabin was taken with a lot more malice. Critics were quick to point out that not only had Harriet Beecher Stowe never been to a plantation, she's never even been to the fucking South at all.
I don't blame her.
Well, yeah, exactly. I gotta say, so fucking what? Do I have to visit North Korea to know it sucks? You know? But it's not like Harriet was just grabbing these stories out of thin fucking air. Not only was her family participating in the Underground Railroad, but just a year after her move to Cincinnati in 1833, she traveled to Maysville, Kentucky to witness a slave trade firsthand. A scene which she replicates in her book with the selling of Uncle Tom and Emmeline.
So technically, yeah, she has been to the South.
Well, they don't count Kentucky, whatever, you know, for whatever fucking... I don't know. But they didn't count it. They were like, you're not in
Confederate
Louisiana.
State.
I know.
Back in those times.
Were they? I don't know. I don't fucking know,
probably.
Honestly.
I want to say yeah.
Now, as strong as a response as Uncle Tom's Cabin would have, it's not only increased the sales of abolitionist literature everywhere, but also birthed a new type of genre. These were called anti-Tom novels.
Oh. So it's like just a knee-jerk response like, slaves love being slaves. Yeah. They'll take what we give them, including 500 lashes.
And a bundle of firewood for their service, yeah. Seven books were published the same year as Harriet's novel alone, and 6 more the following year in 1853.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's not really a knee jerk. That's more of a fucking jump.
Salty.
So mad.
So salty they suck.
One of these, published in 1854, was called The Planter's Northern Bride. It was written by a former Semicolon Club classmate of Harriet's by the name of Caroline Lee Hentz. The story is of a girl who's completely brainwashed by her northern abolitionist father. But luckily, she marries a sweet, caring slave owner who moves her onto his plantation where she can see the error of her ways.
Man, what was her name? Caroline?
Caroline, yeah.
Caroline, get the fuck out of here.
That's great. Good comeback. Since, her husband just treats all these guys so damn well. And Caroline hence would never get to see the error of her own ways, unfortunately, as she died from pneumonia just 2 years after her own book's release.
Oh, pneumonia.
However, someone who did live to change their views was an anti-Tom author by the name of Mary Henderson. Her 1852 book, released the same year as Uncle Tom's Cabin.
These are all women?
Yeah. Hey, you don't give them a job, what are they going to do?
Yeah, I guess so.
If they can't it's someone, they've got to write it down.
They can't make workers, they got to make something.
That's why women are always so cold. You just got to put them in front of a stove and they'll heat right up. Anyways, her book was called Aunt Phyllis's Cabin.
Oh, God.
The book lectured the idea that the South would never be able to get rid of their slaves because they've built their whole society around it. If you got rid of slavery, then everything would crumble. When I don't want to. And while Aunt Phyllis's Cabin didn't even compare to Harriet's sales, it was still the most popular anti-Tom novel out there. But at the conclusion of the Civil War, Mary Henderson would publicly change her stance on slavery. Some think it's because her husband became an advocate for the ethical treatment of natives, and she realized how similar they were being treated, if not worse, to slaves. But some think it's because both of Mary's sons fought for the Union and refused to speak with her because she was being a stupid racist bitch. Either way, I'm glad. Now, one particularly interesting anti-Tom novel is by a woman named Sarah Josepha Hale, called Liberia, or Mr. Peyton's Experiments. This book, published in 1853, is about a man named Mr. Peyton, who isn't quite sure what to do with his slaves. He wants to free them, but he isn't sure if that'd be the right thing for them. So he sends a few slaves into the Deep South, some to the northern colonies, and some to Canada. And wouldn't you know it, they all come crawling back, because they're all just so unhappy when they aren't being treated like slaves. But Mr. Peyton, good man that he is, he's told by society that slavery is wrong. So Mr. Peyton sends his slaves to Liberia, where they can run about happy and free. So this story is regarded as an anti-Tom novel only because it doesn't agree with Harriet's solution, which is to just abolish fucking slavery and let black people be treated as equals. But it's still an anti-slave novel as well, which I found interesting. I also thought the author was fascinating as well. 20 years prior to this, Sarah Josepha Hale had written the nursery rhyme, Mary Had a Little Lamb.
What?
That bitch!
That fucking bitch.
And 10 years from now, in 1863, she'd convince President Lincoln to make the Southern tradition of Thanksgiving into a national holiday. I don't know what to think of her.
What? Thanksgiving is a Southern tradition?
Didn't it technically first happen with Spaniards in Florida? Look, I'm going off of, elementary school knowledge. I don't know, but
my
either way,
elementary school knowledge is that the Pilgrims landed in Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts. And then stuff happened. They were struggling, and the Native Americans were like, hey, neighbor, I see you struggling. You want some snacks? Here's some corn. Then the Pilgrims were like, oh, shit, yeah, you're so nice. Let's have dinner.
Here's the thing, though. This is so she did that shit in 1863. We landed in fucking 1492, sailed the ocean blue. And then I feel like that's a long time. That's almost 400 years? That's almost 400 years of shit in between. I'm sure there's a lot of, questionable origins of Thanksgiving. I feel like,
Oh, yeah.
So it's who knows? But either way, I guess Thanksgiving was just known as a Southern thing. And then she was like, hey, how about everyone do this? It's kind of fun. So
is it, though?
Yeah, so then everybody shows up and tells you about how other people should be slaves. So anyway, yeah, it's still happening today. So anyway, people were quick to start bashing Harriet's novel as completely made up, saying that slaves were treated better than she accused them of. The conditions aren't that bad. Shit like that. So a year after Uncle Tom's Cabin in 1853, Harriet Beecher Stowe released a companion book titled A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin, presenting the original facts and documents upon which the story is founded, together with corroborative statements verifying the truth of the work. That's the end of the title, by the way. This was a book of testimonies to show people that her sources were real.
This makes me think of those isekai stories. I died and
oh my God.
got reincarnated into the villas of my favorite video game, and everybody loves me.
Well, so this was a book of testimonies to show that her sources were real. For instance, she looked extensively into the life of Josiah Henson, a runaway slave who released an autobiography in 1849. She ended up basing the character of Uncle Tom on Josiah, and even the masochistic slave owner Simon Legree was based on Josiah's old master, Bryce Lytton. Harriet's descendants...
Damn, she's naming names.
She is, yeah. No,
she's got the receipts.
She was actually naming fucking names. Like, these people are still alive. Not today, but I mean, like, back then. They were just like... She was just like, oh, yeah, no, and here's his address. Harriet's descendants... like to talk about how she actually met Josiah and was inspired to turn his stories into a book. But in reality, they didn't meet until way after her book was published. Mm-hmm. Now, while Harriet's first book raised the public consciousness on the problems of slavery, it was a key to Uncle Tom's Cabin that fueled the debate even more. While it wasn't more commercially...
Another log onto the fire.
Basically, kindling wood as payment. Yeah. While it wasn't more commercially successful, it was more critically successful. Before, you had true stories mixed with fiction, and for some, it was hard to tell if Harriet was stretching the truth or if this was really what was happening in the South. But since the first book grabbed their attention, people rushed to the second only to find that things were actually much, much fucking worse. But although Harriet was giving accounts of the horrors of slavery by former slaves themselves, it didn't stop people in the South from criticizing her work as a complete fabrication. One newspaper called the Southern Literary Messenger called A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin a, quote, distortion of the facts and mutilation of the records for the sake of giving substance to the scandalous fancy and reduplicating the falsehood of the representation.
I don't like being called out for being an asshole.
The thing is, most Southern critics didn't even deny these things were happening. They just said...
They just don't like being called out.
Yeah, they just
don't want to be told
exactly
that they're being bad. That they believe
dude.
Bad things.
They just said Harriet was cherry-picking the worst examples and claiming that it happened all the time. Which, to some degree, is true. Things like being forced to act like a scarecrow in the North Carolina heat until you pass out, or being burned with hot iron until you die, weren't what I would call everyday occurrences. But is it still a huge fucking concern? Yeah.
All it takes is one fucking turd to ruin the pool.
Yes. Hey, man, you know the problem with, like, police and how they like to shoot people in the back? Once is enough.
Yeah.
It's enough to call that guy to question. But the fact that it happens a lot and those guys keep just, like, walking scot-free and getting a bunch of money in taxpayer money, I'm not okay with it. Like, that's what it fucking means, dude. It's bad. Above all, critics down in Dixieland attacked Harriet's character, saying that a woman who would dare to write about such atrocities was clearly someone with a diseased mind who lived a life of sin.
You could say the same thing about the women that wrote the Anti-Toms, though. Like,
yeah.
They're writing about the same subject, but I like what they're saying, so they're mentally sound.
That's fucking true, actually. Like, yeah, but they love to torture men and suck on their...
They're one of the good ones.
Southerners were so pissed that a man in Mobile, Alabama, who'd actually dared to sell Harriet's work was run out of town. And at least one person out there was so convinced that Harriet lied about her harsh descriptions of slavery that he cut off a slave's ear and sent it to her in a box. Yeah,
That'll really teach her that all slave owners are nice, kind, and rational.
I'm a good person. I'm a good fucking person.
I gave him so much firewood. You can do so much with this firewood. You can make a house with this firewood.
I was so mad. I cut off this man's ear and sent it to you in a box. How does that make you seem less deranged? So fucking wild. Yeah. The popularity of Uncle Tom's Cabin didn't just stop in the Americas, however. It did just as well overseas. But as we've discussed in previous episodes, copyright laws back then didn't really have the same traction they have today. As good as Uncle Tom's Cabin sold in Europe, Harriet didn't see a goddamn dime. But with the insane response that her book was getting, Harriet soon took a tour of the UK in 1853.
Did she get paid then?
Where the Glasgow New Association for the Abolition of Slavery set up a charity for her called Uncle Tom's Offering. Yeah, no, it was kind of a pay what you want for her. Yeah, no, I'm sure she made fucking bank. Now, if you're unsure who Frederick Douglass was, he himself was a writer. Someone we'll honestly probably cover in a future episode.
I remember him.
He's sometimes better remembered as a close advisor to Abraham Lincoln and a former slave.
Yeah.
Well, he spoke with Harriet Beecher Stowe before she took off for England, and they had spoken about plans to build a local trade school for black people. However, although the plan was for her to collect money on her tour, all we know is that Frederick Douglass claims that Harriet, quote-unquote, reconsidered their plan. Sounds to me like she ran off with the money when she saw just how much she was really getting.
You skank.
Yeah.
Just like her father. Was that her father, or was that her father-in-law?
No, that was her father.
Just like her father. Your Calvinist turned Protestant father. Money changes you.
Money really changed you, dude. Ever since you got Instagram famous with 9,000 followers, money changed you, dude. What's funny is that Frederick Douglass was initially a big advocate for Uncle Tom's Cabin, but after speaking with another former slave and black social reformer named Martin Delany, he reassessed his position, agreeing that Harriet was basically selling black stories for white profit.
Yeah. That's what it's looking like.
Yeah. I got to agree that is.
Mm-hmm.
But look. Like, there were slave stories back in the day. People weren't picking them up. They were written by black people.
It's like how they're trying to make a female president happen, but no one's
but we ain't fucking
buying
ready
it
for
because
yeah.
we hate, this country hates women.
I put you on this podcast as a second choice.
See?
Regardless, Uncle Tom's Cabin was now a worldwide sensation. Charles Dickens said, quote, Uncle Tom's Cabin, with all its faults, and is not free from the fault of overstrained conclusions and violent extremes, is a noble work, full of high power, lofty humanity, the gentlest, sweetest, and yet boldest writing. Its authoress, Harriet Beecher Stowe, is an honor to the time that has produced her, and will take her place among the best writers of fiction, inspired by the best and noblest purpose. Tolstoy said her writing flowed from the love of God and man, making it better than any work ever written by Shakespeare.
It's so funny to think of them as contemporaries.
Yeah, also just that these... I'm not going to lie, man. Both of these guys are better writers, too. But it is, like, it's, you know... It's interesting.
I think it's more of like a reaction to the shock of the content.
Well, it's true. Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what this whole fucking episode is about. Is just like this book really started some shit for people, regardless of how well it was written. But it, I mean, fucking sometimes that's all that you needed too, though. Like, was just a little push. Mm-hmm. It was a fun book. I did like it, actually. It was not.
It was fun, Jordan.
It actually was. I enjoyed it. It was not by any means the worst written book.
And then he took the slave and tied him up and gave him 500 lashes, and whoopsie poopsie, he died. So they got a new one. That's fun.
Because it's 500. Yeah. Listen, I'm white, you know.
I guess.
Yes, other countries were just as enamored with Harriet's book as they were in America. It became the first American novel translated into Chinese.
Wow.
Yeah. And within 5 years was translated...
Well, they did make a play in Siam.
Shut the fuck up. And within 5 years, it was translated into over 20 languages. Today, at least 37. In 1854, Harriet Beecher Stowe released Sunny Memories of Foreign Lands, which detailed her trip through Europe, including England, Scotland, France, Switzerland, Germany, and the Netherlands. While Germany and the Netherlands wouldn't outlaw slavery officially until 1890, Harriet's book was well received by everyone. However, Switzerland just kind of forgot that slavery was legal for them until 1974, when they realized they should probably make an update on that.
The Swiss are classically neutral.
I fucking guess. I mean, that's... Harriet Beecher Stowe became the face of the abolitionist movement. When in 1855, a book titled The Colored Patriots of the American Revolution by author William Cooper Nell hit the shelves, Harriet was asked to pen the introduction. She stated that Black history is too often forgot by the masses, but only because it's repressed on purpose. It was books such as William Cooper Nell's that would always carry on the story. In 1856, Harriet released Dread, spelled D-R-E-D, A Tale of the Great Dismal Swamp, her second novel. Like everything she would make, it did less well financially than Uncle Tom, but would still be a classic on its own merit. Dread is about the escaped slaves that really did live in the swamps between Virginia and North Carolina, with the super fun name of the Great Dismal Swamp. Super dangerous area as far as the wildlife goes, but if you're an escaped slave and you're looking for a place where no one will follow you, what other choice do you have? But one thing people noticed about Dread was that it had more of a revolutionary feel to it than Uncle Tom. No longer were the characters talking about leaving America to make a home back in Africa. Instead, they were talking about rising up against Whitey. Now, if you're unaware of who Nat Turner was, he was a slave that led a 4-day rebellion across Virginia in August 1831, where he went from plantation to plantation with a group of dudes, killing slave owners and freeing slaves. But as great as that sounds, the rebellion was very much focused on killing anyone who was white, regardless of age, sex, or occupation. Meaning that of the estimated 55 deaths Nat Turner and his followers were responsible for, half of those were children. What do you say now, Nicole? Go ahead and give me your thoughts. Did they teach that in King of Siam, you bitch?
Turnabout is fair play. How many black children, died as slaves?
I'm cutting your mic.
Versus how many that gang got.
Well, when the local militia got wind of this, their response was likewise a little reckless. They just went to town and started killing black people indiscriminately. They ended up killing about twice as many as...
they weren't doing that before
already. Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
They ended up killing about twice as many as Nat Turner and his crew ever did. During his arrest, Nat Turner would tell his story to his attorney, Thomas Ruffin Gray, and Gray would later publish these confessions in an attempt to show Northerners how their abolitionist stances were poisoning the minds of lowly black folk. Harriet Beecher Stowe, on the other hand, put Nat Turner's confessions at the back of her book, Dread, as a call for more action. On July 9th, 1857, Harriet's son, Henry, would drown in the Connecticut River beside Hanover College in New Hampshire at the age of 19. Not much is known about his personal life, or death for that matter, except what we have from the Hanover College's records. Quote, young Stowe went into the water with several of his classmates to bathe, and after being in a few minutes, became exhausted and cried for help. His roommate and another young man went to his relief, but their efforts to save him were unavailing. Stowe sunk but once and remained underwater 20 minutes before he was taken out. Life was not then extinct, but he was so far gone that he expired in a few moments. He was drowned.
I'm sorry, if you're 20 minutes under the water and you come out still alive?
I don't...
What? What kind of a college was this? Not a very good one.
Aleister Crowley's College of Young Minds.
Bro.
He was drowned only about 4 rods from the shore. I looked up what a rod length was. I have no idea. And his body could be seen when lying at the bottom. His remains were carried to Andover in charge of a committee of students consisting of one from each class. The deceased was 19 years of age, a fine scholar, and a youth of much promise. Henry's father and uncle would preside over his funeral. And I just have to warn people, fucking swimming can be dangerous, okay? A lot of people feel like they can tame it just by swimming well.
You can still drown in shallow water with just the right
I've almost
conditions.
done it. I fucking... We were on that trip. I think it was our first trip to Italy where we were just like... What the fuck was the name of that place? It was the town that we were like... It was like a beach town.
Oh, shit, I forget.
Lucas something. I don't know.
It's Portofino.
No. We didn't swim at Portofino. Portofino was the place where we took pictures and shit. But we were at some other place before that.
Right, with the sea bathers eruption.
Yeah. Sea bathers eruption that your sister got from fucking laying on the sand. Yeah. A bunch of little bugs that came up and nipped her in the back, which is disgusting. But I was like, oh, there's a buoy out at the end of that dock. I'm going to swim to the end of that buoy and back. And I started swimming. And my fucking calf started like, just like seized up, and I was like, oh! It's just like I was gonna die in Italy. But either way, yeah, no, fucking swimming, it exerts more muscle and strength than you would think. It doesn't feel that way. Definitely drink some water beforehand, not a bunch. Then you're just gonna weigh your fucking fat ass down before you fucking drown. But either way, by 1860. It was already becoming clear that America was headed for civil war. President Abraham Lincoln called upon Americans to enlist in the army, and Harriet's son Frederick would enlist that same year. Frederick had been an alcoholic since he was a teenager. Pound it. And his parents had doubts that he could really make it in the army. Turns out, though, the army loves a good drunk. Just look at General Grant. So Fred Stowe climbed the ranks all the way to lieutenant, which I'm sure worried his parents even more. On April 12th, 1861, the American Civil War began. It would last a total of 4 years, 1 month, and 2 weeks. Now, some have gone so far as to say that...
I'm sorry, how long did it last again?
4 years, 1 month, and 2 weeks.
Went to college longer than... The Confederacy was.
And what do you have to show for it, bitch? Now, some have gone so far as to say that Uncle Tom's Cabin started the war. And that is an oversimplification.
That is.
But it did definitely escalate the process. People were becoming more and more aware to the horrors being committed in the South as time went on. And the South were steadfast in remaining pro-slavery in the United States. This war was going to happen. But without the popularity of Uncle Tom's Cabin, it's hard to say who would have been president when it happened. It could have been during the projected second term of Abraham Lincoln. Who knows? Maybe a Southerner becomes president and fucks things up even more. On November 25th, 1862, about a year and a half after the start of the Civil War, Harriet and her kids would venture to Washington, D.C., where they would meet with none other than President Lincoln. Now, we don't know much about their meeting, but Harriet would write to her husband Calvin saying, quote, I had a real funny interview with the president. Stop doing the finger fucking thing. He did not fuck her. And her daughter had... Stop it. And her daughter Hattie said, quote, I will only say now that it was all very funny, and we were ready to explode with laughter all the while. And to explode with cum. No. It sounds like they probably just bullshitted the whole time, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I imagine.
He
just
told
like,
them about the aliens.
Mr. President. Well, it's funny because it's just like, what do people really expect to have happen? Like, so I met with the president, and what do you guys talk about? He didn't tell me shit because everything that I know is not ready to be a state secret. Like, he's not ready to spill fucking honest to God.
Makes sense.
One of Harriet's sons wanted the meeting to have a bit more brevity to it, though. So the way he tells it, Lincoln greeted them by saying, quote, "So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war." Historians are pretty sure that's bullshit, though. He probably didn't say that. Also,
and then everybody clapped. Shut the fuck up, kid.
Right. Well, not only that, but his voice was also really high. I don't know if you knew that. So you're the little woman who wrote the book that started this great war.
The mouse always gets its due.
That's why he got shot in the fucking theater. He's just
copyright.
Do it again. A couple months after their meeting with the president on January 10th, 1863, Harriet's father, Lyman Beecher, would die at the age of 87. He'd suffered a stroke 7 years prior and had since then lived a near-silent life until his death. Just 6 months later, in July that same year, Gettysburg would begin, with Harriet's son, Lieutenant Fred Stowe, in attendance. Now, he'd managed to get promotions the last couple years simply because he was the son of Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was a saint in the eyes of the abolitionists. And of course, the Army made sure to keep Fred out of danger. But there's only so much you can do to keep you out
of ice cream.
To keep you out of harm's way with something as big as Gettysburg. Is there ice cream over there? No, Fred, no! On the first day of battle, a shell exploded near Fred, launching shrapnel into his fucking face. Fragments dug inside his ear canal, which were never recovered. Oof. And although he did survive this, he battled with constant headaches, which were enough of an annoyance that he was forced to resign. The pain in his head and what he figured to be a dishonorable discharge from the military caused his drinking to worsen. In 1865, Harriet released a book called Stories About Her Dogs. I'm only mentioning this here because I didn't have time to read it, and I want to remind myself to do so. I read a little bit online, and they had a Newfoundland named Rover that someone fucking poisoned, which sucks.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it sounds nefarious given her reputation, right? But she was just like, nah, people just like poisoning dogs.
What the fuck?
Another reason to just hate Southerners, maybe. But I guess she was in the North. I don't know. Either way, I have it on my list. So anyway,
people exist in the North too.
Yeah. So anyway, in 1866, a year after the end of the Civil War, Harriet's son Fred found Florida to be the perfect place to buy cheap land with cheap labor. Remember, this is the guy that got the fucking shrapnel in the head. The land was cheap because most people hadn't bothered to know anything about Florida yet. And the labor was cheap because it was filled with former slaves. So for $10,000, the Stowes bought a cotton plantation in a place called Mandarin and moved there in 1867. Their reasoning had less to do with the possibility of profit and more to do with supporting their son, who seemed not to drink so long as he was farming. Problem is, Fred was no green thumb. Oh, no. He also was not any less of a drunk. He was taking off entire days just to go to Jacksonville and drink like it was a vacation. In the entirety of 1867, the Stowe farm would produce 2 entire bales of cotton. Two. That's not a lot.
They should have opened up a firewood plantation.
Shut up. Did you guys ever have to go pick cotton as a fucking vacation?
No!
We did that shit as a field trip one time.
That is wild. Did you have black classmates?
I don't think we did.
Jesus Christ.
I remember one named Jeff with a G, like one of those kinds of Jeffs. You know? No, not because he was black, but because he was Jeff with a G, and that's gross.
He's a Geoffrey.
He's a Geoffrey. But I don't know if that was that class. And honestly, it's not like they brought up American history in that time. They were just like, hey, we'll have your kids fucking pick a cotton field for free. We got to ride on the back of a truck. It was kind of fun. Like, I enjoyed it.
Child slave labor.
Child slave labor isn't fucking child slave labor if they're having fun, okay?
That sounds like a
look, when you become an adult,
old-timey Southerner argument.
No, when you become an adult, if you were to just feed moonshine...
We treat our slaves great.
No, if you were to feed some moonshine to adult people, they would fucking work your farm for you. Some of them. I like cleaning and shit when I'm drunk. I enjoy it.
That is called alcoholism.
No, it's not. It's called ambition. And you right now are being an bitch on. I need you to be an bitch off. All right, now, however...
You need to get better at puns. The other white people are better at than you.
How's this as a pun?
You're really... I thought I was marrying a top-of-the-line white person to be my white shield against this bullshit system.
No, I get fucking pulled over at TSA now. I was not a white shield at all. Like, they're just like, you with her? Yeah. Lift your fucking... touch your toes and lift your sack. Like, god damn it. However, buying a nearby orange orchard and switching to that seemed to do a lot better for the Stowes. They actually managed to gain a bit of profit at a time when oranges were seen as sort of a rare item in the North. In New York, a single orange would sell for 50 cents, about $10 today.
What could it cost? What could a banana cost, Michael?
$10. Yeah, no, for real though. Like fucking $10 for an orange. You know what though? I don't eat oranges now. They're plentiful and I'm fine with it. But if they cost $10, I'd eat them all the time.
Dude. Ew.
I'd just be like, oh fuck yeah, man. That's fucking. That's
you
awesome.
know. Side note: when we were on one of our Japan trips, like buying the pricier fruits in the grocery store,
dude.
It was worth it.
Okay,
Best fucking apple, grapes, and strawberries I've ever had. The blueberries, I've not... Nothing will compare.
Your sister gave me, like, I think it was, like, a freeze-dried strawberry covered in dark chocolate or something.
Yeah.
And I fucking cried when I bit into it.
I had the same reaction when she gave me white chocolate and melon.
It's just like, why is this...
It's so... It's good.
So here's the thing, though. Japan doesn't really produce their own fruit, right? Don't they usually have to import it?
I don't know.
Isn't that why it's so expensive? But it's so good. How do they do that?
No, that's the thing. They have... I mean, I'm sure they've got their own farmers who specialize in it. But the thing is, it's an island. There's no more land for them to expand to.
Well,
so they have to use everything well. So, yeah, it's either you know,
you see that video?
You're kind of fucked, right?
Of the guy who sells the like $500 strawberries.
Oh god!
And
if I ever won the lottery,
yeah, oh, I know. And there's like actual
20
chefs,
of those.
Like, yeah, there's like chefs and shit that go to like pay this dude $500 for a fucking strawberry.
Buy him out.
They like all end up like falling to their knees and crying. And I'm just like, all right, I gotta try one.
Right.
Like $500 bucks. That's like a good tattoo, you know. We should probably just like fuck it, dude. Like, let's go try it. Let's
with one of my mother's luxury purses. She
doesn't need to know. She doesn't know that we're selling one of them. We'll sell 2 of them for fucking $100. It'll be fine. Now, all the while, Harriet continued to write. She even wrote a cover story for what was called the Highland Clearances. Now, what these were was essentially thousands of people in Scotland being kicked off their land over the course of like 100 years so that landlords, i.e. the government, could raise the property and turn it into farming. Meanwhile, the people displaced from the Highland Clearances were forced into cramped accommodations that led to illness and starvation. You know, slave conditions. Well, now, Harriet got her perspective on the Highland Clearances was to interview the Duchess of Argyll, a woman named Elizabeth Campbell, who was married to the man who carried out the clearances once he came into power in 1847. Turns out, Harriet and the Duchess were made for each other. They had a grand old fucking time for dunking on the pores. No, they're not cuddling. Stop that. Harriet was fully in support of the Highland Clearances. In fact, anytime Harriet was in the UK, she would stay with the Duchess in her mansion.
So they're just snooty bitches.
Yeah, but this is like exactly the type of shit that she's against. Perfect. And they're just like, it sucks though. That's so fucking bullshit. Like oh, but the Scottish are different. They're dumb. Like I don't know. And I mean, at least one Scotsman found humor in this. He wrote a book about the realities of the Highland clearances called Auntie Kate's Cabin. So, on her little plantation in Mandarin, Florida, Harriet had no monetary worries whatsoever. Her son Fred was working the orange groves, and they had money to spare. This meant that Harriet was able to continue writing for at least a good few hours each day. And as much as her publisher was requesting from Harriet an actual novel, she was instead sending him scraps of travelogues. Her first vacation in Europe, her tour of Italy, and of course her love of Florida, which she regarded as, quote, a tropical paradise. Would you foresee Florida as a tropical paradise?
Absolutely the fuck not. Muggy as shit. Rain at the drop of the hat. There. That's right. Mosquitoes.
You went there for the J.K. Rowling turf exhibition, didn't you, you fucking bitch? That's right.
I'm a millennial.
You went to the... Hey, I've got a tattoo.
It was... You didn't just get a tattoo of a Harry Potter thing. You got the fascist Harry Potter tattoo.
I just like her tweets. So in 1869, Harriet bought a plot of land with plans to build a church, one that would double as a school for a non-segregated crowd. Men, women, white, black. Anyone was free to learn. And after a year, the church was built. Not long after its completion, however, before the doors would even open, it would burn to the ground.
Because racists?
Well, some have speculated that someone in the community was responsible, namely her neighbors, who were known to be a couple of fucking racists. However, the church was rebuilt with their help, so that theory doesn't really add up. It seems that there's more evidence to suggest that some drifters may have actually started the fire. Like, they sought shelter when the church wasn't being occupied, and they set up a campfire inside that accidentally got out of control.
They took the spare wood, the spare building materials. Look at this firewood, it's free.
How much did you get paid for your last job? I got 2 bundles of firewood.
Fuck, I got ripped off. I only got 1.5.
Throw it against the door. We'll just burn it all. It's fine. That same year, Harriet would co-author a book called The American Woman's Home with her sister Catherine. You see, Harriet and Catherine believed in a world with equal rights for women. Oh. Not all women. Married women. And maybe all women, but not like right away. No, you need to show that you were like happily domesticated, and then maybe they could get an education, and then maybe they would be allowed to vote. You know, as
just
a
as
Filipino,
long as there was
a
man responsible for you.
Yeah, someone to fucking put a chip in your shoulder. The next year, in 1870, Harriet would release a book titled Lady Byron Vindicated, a history of the Byron controversy from its beginning in 1816 to the present time.
Is it that Byron?
Well, this was an interview between the 59-year-old Harriet and the 78-year-old Anne Milbank, better known to you and me as the Lady Byron. Do you remember? She was the one that was like, "Mom, Dad, he's good. Don't worry." And then she like fucking
Lordy B's wife.
Yeah.
Oh my.
She tried to plead that Lord Byron was an honorable Christian man. But yes, he also fucked his half-sister, Augusta. As much as it was a well-known rumor before this, the rumor that Lord Byron boned his sister was first written here and immortalized forever afterward. Yeah. Now
so
that's
it was
a legacy.
Initially just hearsay.
Yep.
And because of Harriet Beecher Stowe, she got into basically tabloid writing.
Yeah, essentially. But like, we do have a bunch of letters to back it up where people were just like, he's really weird about Augusta. Like,
but this is the first time it's being like published
yes.
by a company.
Yes.
Instead of just people being like, let me look at somebody else's correspondence.
This would be like, okay, do you remember how Marilyn Manson took out 2 of his ribs to be able to suck his own dick?
Yeah.
That didn't fucking happen, but imagine if there was then like somebody like a producer who like wrote a tell-all book and he's just like, so yeah, I'm here. Here's a whole chapter called The 2 Ribs of Marilyn Manson. And he fucking, yeah, dude. And I fucking watched him do it like 8 weeks after post-op, dude. Like,
it was a student hospital.
Student hospital. Yeah, we didn't think that they could do it, but they fucking did it.
Well, that's how he watched it. Right?
Ralph Milbank, also known as Lord Lovelace, Lord Byron's grandson, whom he never met, wrote a response on Harriet's book, which he called Astarte, a fragment of truth concerning George Gordon Byron, 6th Lord Byron. He said, quote, "You ask my views on this most painful subject. Mrs. Stowe has committed the grave error, whatever her motive, of going to the public with insufficient evidence, arrogantly expecting her name to command universal belief. She has committed a flagrant breach of confidence, and without even the justification of producing a history upon such evidence that no doubt could be fastened upon it." He bitches for over 300 pages, and all of it is about Harriet Beecher Stowe. Granted, I did not read it, but I flipped.
Well, he didn't read. He never met his grandfather.
No, dude, I fucking scrolled through like JSTOR and fucking. Okay, page 84. There's her name. Page 100. All right, there she. Like the whole book is just about him being.
But then the last sentence is, "My grandfather did not fuck his sister."
Yeah, no, that's what it's all leading up to. And it's just like, dude,
is it really? Oh shit!
And here's the thing, dude. Like, we covered it in the Lord Byron episodes itself, but he fucking like was worried that one of his sister's kids was his. Like, that is the only evidence we have from his mouth, but that's enough evidence that
from his mouth to God's ears.
His fucking handwriting. Wild shit. Anyway. The same year as the release of Lady Byron's expose in 1870, Fred Stowe, her son, still an alcoholic, decides to no longer be a burden to his family and fled from his home in Florida. He caught a ship that brought him around South America and all the way up to San Francisco, where he settled into a hotel with some friends.
He took the long, long way around?
There wasn't a Panama Canal.
Well, he just didn't. I don't know. I guess there's no railroad. There's no taking a.
That's a.
There's no riding a horse.
That's a good point. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, you could have probably walked and gone there quicker. Well, once he dropped off his bags into his room, he left to run an errand, and
he never came back.
Never seen again. He was only 31.
Damn. Apparently,
Harriet would spend the rest of her life hoping to receive a letter from Fred, never believing in the possibility that he was dead. Now, in 1872, Harriet's brother Henry Ward Beecher was under some hot water. He was accused of adultery, and although he was probably guilty, Harriet remained a staunch supporter of her brother and touted his innocence. You see, it wasn't the first time that Henry Beecher had been accused of adultery, nor rape, for that matter, though nothing could be concluded one way or the other. It basically came about that one woman in Henry's church admitted to another woman in the church that they'd banged Henry, and it turns out that that woman banged him too. After that, they just kind of found out that everyone had been fucking Henry.
He's a town bicycle.
Well, a trial was eventually set in 1875. Henry was ultimately exonerated of any wrongdoing the following year.
What the fuck?
Well, he's a dude.
Yeah, that's true.
You know? Though whether or not he was guilty of his crimes seemed to split the Beecher siblings down the middle. Harriet, however, was always on her brother's side. Not for the best, I know. Stop with the finger fucking thing, man. She's not fucking her brother. She's... in 1873...
She was hanging out with the Byrons.
A Byron. noble one. In 1873, Harriet published one of the first travel guides to Florida titled Palmetto Leaves. It was a bestseller, and by Harriet's own estimation, about 14,000 tourists had made their way to Florida within the next year alone.
By her estimation.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Like a billion people came by because I said,
and they all said
it was so cool to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, the Stowe household was close by the St. Johns River, and riverboat captains soon made it a rule to slow down past their home so people could get the chance to see Harriet on the veranda. This became so popular a destination, in fact, that a dock was soon made next to her home, almost like a bus stop, just so that people could get off and bother her and her family. Not so sure that she was made aware of their intentions when they built it, because yes, she was very fucking annoyed by the amount of people that did not understand how weird it is to peek inside of other people's windows. Soon afterward, the Stowes returned to their old home in Hartford, Connecticut, though they would still visit their home in Florida during the winter. It was here in Hartford that Harriet would become a founder of the Hartford Art School, which was soon absorbed into the University of Hartford. In 1884, Calvin Stowe's health began to weaken. Just a couple years later, Harriet's husband of 50 years would pass away in 1886 at the age of 84. Since his death, Harriet's health also began to rapidly decline. 2 years later, in 1888, it was reported by the Washington Post that the 77-year-old Harriet Beecher Stowe was working on a new novel. She called it Uncle Tom's Cabin, and the novel was word for word the same as her earlier release at the same time.
How was the Civil War still going at this point?
No. It ended in like fucking 1860 something.
Okay, so
68, I think. This was like 20 years later. Harriet was battling dementia.
Oh.
And although she didn't remember having written the book before, she remembered her own story exactly the same. Every day she worked on Uncle Tom's Cabin, and every day she remained exhausted by the effort. Also, since she had written numerous essays about nature over the years, she would often be seen wandering town, shouting her knowledge about any flower she came across, to no one in particular.
Rhododendrons!
Yeah, very much. I like them. It's blue. It's very possible that when one of Harriet's own children, Georgiana May Allen, died at the age of 46 from septicemia on January 13th, 1890, that Harriet's mind had no way to process it. But hey, you know who else lived in Hartford? Mark Twain.
Hey!
They were next door neighbors.
Hey!
And he actually wrote about Harriet's last years. Quote, yeah, it's not a happy one. Quote, her mind had decayed, and she was a pathetic figure. She wandered about all the day long in the care of a muscular Irish woman.
Hey!
Among the colonists of our neighborhood, the doors always stood open in pleasant weather. Mrs. Stowe entered them at her own free will, as she was always softly slippered and generally full of animal spirits. She was able to deal in surprises, and she liked to do it. She would slip up behind a person who was deep in dreams and musings and fetch a war whoop that would jump that person out of his clothes. And she had other moods. Sometimes we would hear gentle music in the drawing room and would find her there at the piano singing ancient and melancholy songs with infinitely touching effect. So she'd just wander into people's homes and be like, Harriet Beecher Stowe passed away July 1st, 1896 at the age of 85.
Oh, wow.
She was buried alongside her husband Calvin and their son Henry at the Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts. But honestly, Harriet wasn't the only person of note in her family. Her older sister Catherine protested the Indian Removal Bill of 1830, She also became an advocate for women to become teachers, saying they were easier to deal with and they understood children better than men. She founded the American Women's Educational Association in 1852, which would form the acceptance of kindergarten being implemented in America. I have no idea where it was before that. France, maybe? I don't know. Unfortunately, Catherine Beecher was also kind of an anti-suffragette, believing that women could be better off shielded from the evils of politics. She died at age 77 on May 12th, 1878.
That's what you get.
I suppose so.
But
Harriet's other sister, Isabella, was luckily a suffragist icon who believed the government could use a mother's touch. She even presented a bill that would allow married women to own their own property. She was by Harriet's side when she passed away and unfortunately wouldn't live to see the 19th Amendment ratified, which would allow women to vote in 1920. Instead, she passed away on January 25th, 1907, at the age of 84. All the men in the Beecher family, all of Harriet's brothers, were preachers of one kind or another. Sorry, I was trying to kick the dog because I see her licking her butthole on the side.
Oh my God, that's private time for her.
No,
Don't look at her.
Anyway, her brother Thomas even officiated Mark Twain's wedding. She only had one brother, however, that actually participated in the Civil War rather than just giving soldiers their last rites. James Chaplin Beecher enlisted in the Union infantry and quickly rose in the ranks. The rifles his men carried were nicknamed Beecher's Bibles, since their job was to send Confederate men to God.
Hell yeah.
That's so fucking cool, dude.
Hell
That's so cool as shit, dude. The only time James quit the war was to attend to his wife's death in 1863, but then he jumped right back in. Commanded the 35th United States Colored Troops until he was forced into retirement at the age of 37. Died August 25th, 1886 at the age of 58 from a self-inflicted rifle round after years of mental fatigue.
Oh.
That's manly as fuck. This dude kicks ass.
Like, I'm tired, night-night.
Yeah, just fucking, I'm done. I've done God's will. Dude's awesome. Harriet and Calvin's children didn't do much in their lives. Her first children, the twins Hattie and Eliza, died in 1907 and 1912, respectively, and Charles died in 1934. Though Charles did write a biography of his mother called The Life of Harriet Beecher Stowe in 1889, 7 years before her death. Now, while Uncle Tom's Cabin was seen as a revolutionary novel in its time, having been a factor in the Civil War, it has since then become sort of a staple in stereotypes. I mean, it was handing out racist stereotypes like it was candy. Mm-hmm. Big-hipped Mammy at the stove, the eccentric little black girl Topsy, and of course Uncle Tom himself, who was all too happy to do his job for white people so long as everyone was satisfied. With the book being the highest-selling novel in the world at the end of the 19th century, it meant that it had its fair share of stage and film productions as well. These were called Tom shows. Problem was... Oh shit, is this The King and I? The problem was, everybody likes a happy ending, and notably, Uncle Tom's Cabin doesn't really have one. I mean,
yeah, I guess so.
It's bittersweet with Uncle Tom dying and all, but, you know, there's an epilogue where you find out everyone else lived happily ever after. Anyway, Harriet Beecher Stowe always looked at Uncle Tom as a Christ-like figure, seeing a sort of beautiful sadness in his death. In Tom's shows, however, they needed a happy ending. Now, they'd still have Uncle Tom die, yes, but then they'd always have some sort of ending where all the whites gather around and talk about how sad they are to see Uncle Tom dead and, gosh, the error of their ways. Regrettably, all this makes is an ending where the only way whites will understand the problems of the black population is through their demise. That's not a good thing at all. On top of that, these shows had to condense the story. It'd be far too long otherwise. So what we were typically left with were stories that cut out the feminism, cut out the Christianity, and yes, even cut out the pro-abolitionist message. As Tom
what
shows...
What the fuck?
Well, for time constraints, you've got another 30 minutes to put on here. Put more black jokes.
It's like... Well, no, it just seemed like those were like the major points. What do you mean they cut it out?
Well...
And they didn't free anyone, and no one escaped, and they were just happy doing free labor for the rest of their lives, and then they died after 500 lashes.
Eliza and her Harry baby fucking died in the weir.
The baby was named Harry. He wasn't Harry, but I'm sure there was hair.
He floated up to the top because of how much hair he had, and he fucking drowned him anyway. I don't know. As Tom shows grew more popular, the message would become more and more altered. And to a lot of people, hey... Watching a stage show...
Until it was Siamese.
Siam. Yeah, watching a stage show is a lot easier than reading a book. On top of that, Uncle Tom's image started to warp as well. Tom was no longer seen as this muscular, heroic young man. Instead, Tom shows often made him portly, old, and gave him a gray beard. This all but confirmed to anyone who hadn't actually read the story that Uncle Tom was a weak old man with weak ideals. I'm almost certain the old guy in the Song of the South was based on Uncle Tom, and that's what a lot of people think of when they hear that name.
No, really?
I imagine so.
Aye.
I kind of thought that way myself until we got like an illegal copy of Song of the South. You know, and we watched it. Fucking dumb movie, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Well,
There's a hilarious scene where, like, a kid runs across... Like, okay, so a little white boy dies by getting run over by a bull, I think. But he ran across the field, and I know that they edited it for, a bull to run, like, soon after him. But it was the same shot, and it was hilarious. Like, a little boy going, no! And then he goes out of frame, and then a bull chases after him. Just mows his ass down. It's fucking hilarious. Anyway, as time went on, the original message in Uncle Tom's Cabin was all but lost. In 1907, there was a play in China called Black Slaves Cry to Heaven. And while it was fairly loyal to the original story, the purpose of the play was to show how unfairly Chinese people were being treated in America. As the writer of the play wrote on the poster, quote, "The yellow people in the U.S. are probably treated worse than the blacks, but our country's power is weak and our convoys are cowardly and afraid of arguing with the Americans. Furthermore, no educated person has recorded what has happened, and I have no way to gain factual knowledge." What the fuck does that mean?
Right?
It's like... So anyway, I might be making this up. I don't know. I haven't read it. What the fuck? As soon as we hit the 20th century, Tom shows got adapted to film. One of the first full-length films we have, which meant back then that the movie was only like 20 minutes long, was a 1903 silent rendition of Uncle Tom's Cabin. It was even directed by Edwin S. Porter, the guy who released the classic Western film, The Great American Train Robbery, that same year. That's for my fellow film students and not Nicole, who doesn't know what The Great American Train Robbery is.
Yeah, it had Denzel Washington in it.
That's Inside Man. Now, of course, nothing problematic would be the same if Disney didn't get involved. Walt Disney himself voiced Mickey Mouse in the 1933 short film Mickey's Melodrama.
Oh, no.
Where he, Minnie, and Goofy stage a Tom show.
Oh, no.
So if you ever want to hear what Walt Disney sounded like pretending to be a mouse doing black voice, there you go.
Oh, no.
Perhaps in a bit of a coincidence, the church built by Harriet and Calvin Stowe was destroyed when Hurricane Dora threw an oak tree through the roof in 1964, the same year the Civil Rights Act was signed into law. Unfortunately, this did also destroy a stained glass window that was dedicated to the Stowe family, designed and constructed in 1916 by Louis Comfort Tiffany, the man who would popularize the company known as Tiffany's. Motherfucker designed the New York Yankees logo. But he was also the guy that introduced the world to Tiffany lamps, so fuck him, I guess. I'm not a fan. I don't like Tiffany lamps.
You have very strong feelings about lamps.
I have very fucking strong feelings about Tiffany lamps in particular. I don't like them. Even just the design, I don't fucking like it, dude. Just, I don't know.
Did
the whole,
give you the heebie-jeebies?
Well, no, it's like the faux stained glass feel that they put on. Like, anything that's not a quote-unquote actual Tiffany lamp, I still call them a Tiffany lamp, when they got that bullshit-ass fucking design over them. And yeah, we got like 3 or 4 downstairs. I'm aware.
2.
I don't like
3.
No,
yeah.
We've got the one over the dining room table
so
too.
that's the third.
I hate it. I fucking hate it.
But the other 2 have birds.
Fuck the fucking. Just get fucking birds on. I don't fucking. I'm.
Back on track.
Matter. Now the house where Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin while in Brunswick, Maine, became a museum called the Harriet Beecher Stowe House in 1962. As was the Harriet Beecher Stowe House in Cincinnati and the Harriet Beecher Stowe House in Brunswick, that both became museums in 1970. In 1986, Harriet was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. Uncle Tom's Cabin has always been problematic, yes, and to a certain degree, so was Harriet Beecher Stowe. And while I hope you understand that the original name for Uncle Tom was no insult, I still can't say that it'd be wise to say out loud. Especially since Republicans keep defending the term, as well as the entirety of slavery, saying it just wasn't that bad.
I was going to say, those northern states, like her old residences in the northern states were turned into museums. You didn't say anything about Florida.
That's a fair point that you and I have both made. Now, my sources today: Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe, first Signet Classic Printing, February 1966. The Experience of a Slave in South Carolina by John Andrew Jackson, Passmore and Alabaster, 1862, archive.org. The 1848 Capitol Riots, an unsuccessful mass escape by enslaved blacks that entangled the nation by The Conversation. MilwaukeeIndependent.com, April 13th, 2021. Harriet Beecher Stowe and the Highland Clearances by Glenn McDavid, gmcdavid.org. Astarte, a fragment of truth concerning George Gordon Byron, 6th Lord Byron, recorded.
My grandfather did not fuck his sister.
No, that's the next source. Hang on. By his grandson, Ralph Milbank, Earl of Lovelace, new edition, with many additional letters, edited by Mary Countess of Lovelace, by Ralph Milbank, Earl of Lovelace. London,
cutting out all the parts where he is worried that
archive.org.
His sister's child
shut
is
up.
his.
It's fine. Frederick Stowe, Andover Lest We Forget.com and Jedi.com. So there's Jedi. So it's the story of Harriet Beecher Stowe, somebody who, by all means, was not completely without fault, but
of course,
God forbid that she did not fucking. She really fucking went for the number one problem in this country and was just like, no, fuck this shit. And then decided that she was going to back a few others that were just, probably, women should probably vote. Scottish people should probably have the same conditions as everyone else. That's okay. But, how do you feel?
I really want to watch specifically the little play that they do in The King and I.
We'll fucking get to it, man. We have it on VHS. I don't know how long it'll take. Like, there's no chapter selection.
But
I've never seen the movie.
YouTube.
I guess. All right. Well, we'll look for it then. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
And fuck you and fuck the government.